I'm Matt Braunger. This might help.
I am not a doctor.
This might help.
I'm not a professional.
Let's have fun. This honestly is a good time.
Honestly, I got no idea what I'm doing. What's going on, Corey?
I'm Matt Braunger. This might help. The podcast. Hey, welcome to This Might Help, the comedy advice podcast that you shouldn't take seriously, but it might help. I say this every time. If you do need clinical help, get it. This ain't it. But if it helps, great. It's kind of like someone at a party handing you a drug that's not going to kill you, but hey, it might help. That's a weird analogy. I'm glad that you guys have been listening and telling your friends about this. I have a lot of tour dates coming up. I have 25 cities I'm hitting before the end of the year. The only one that's sold out right now is Chicago, and there's a second show being added. So I don't know the date off the top of my head because I'm fried. I've been in the sun all day. But go to mattbraunger.com/tour. See if I'm coming to you. So that said, BS aside, I have a guest who I'm going to make feel very uncomfortable right now because he's very talented in an almost extraterrestrial way. Anytime I see him make stuff and he puts it online, I always say, why don't you have your own TV show like an asshole who doesn't know anything about the business? And I know it must be annoying because I've done it at least 4 or 5 times, but he's also an incredibly kind man and perfect for the show to dole out some advice based on his life's foibles and successes. So please welcome, I'm going to try to get this right, Demi Adejuyigbe. Adejuyigbe. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. You got it.
I will say my whole life people have been mispronouncing my name, but it's a little more plain than yours, but it's just because they don't know. People tend to switch the G in the end always for me. So it's always like Braunger is what I'll get.
Yeah.
Know? But
I always it's a fun little moment when you get to correct someone just in public, just like, oh, it's this actually. And like they're like, oh God, I'm like, it really, I don't care.
Sure. Yeah. I've never once been offended. You know, even when, I mean, the only time growing up, I wonder if you did this too, where you always knew it was a telemarketer, where they would ask for your mother or your father and try to say your last name and just butcher it. And
that still happens. I'm just like, I'll let them go. I'll just be like, yeah, that's me. And then I'll just be like, what are they trying to get at? And then
Yeah, and I've never once corrected, this is awful, but I've never once corrected a telemarketer when I was a kid, but the only time I ever did was when a woman said, yes, can I speak to Mr. Bra? And then said the N-word. And I was like, oh, God. That's not our name, please. I was like, I'm going to tell you exactly how to say it. Because she didn't know, it wasn't
right
an intentional thing. But I was like, no, I can't let that stand.
Just gonna call back a few times, just be like, I'm gonna try again, and just says the exact same thing. You're like, okay, you're not trying,
ma'am. This isn't. You're failing. So the thing is, I mean, I know you, but I don't know a ton about you. I mean, I'm
mysterious.
You're mysterious. I know some of your musical inclinations and fandoms, like what you're into. You and I think, are into a lot of the same types of tunes. Mm-hmm. But why don't you talk about your podcast for just a second, if you want to give a little quick synopsis of that, because it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, sure. It was called Punch Up the Jam, and basically it was the idea was we talked about popular songs and then just sort of it was just like dissecting a popular song and going like, what's quote unquote wrong with it, but really just sort of taking it from a comedy angle and then going like, oh, we fixed it at the end, but just it was really rewriting the song to be more comedic, just in whatever way we had found to do it. And it was just a real fun exercise in just making parody music, but under the guise of we are punching it up. Yeah.
But you have this talent where you can write songs like people and sound like those people. Like you did the Will Smith as Aladdin song, which I was like, if I just heard that, I'd be like, oh wait, he was Aladdin and he did this song.
Right.
It not only was in the perfect style of him, but it sounded like him. And I think that takes, it's funny, you have comedic mimicry, which I think is often the truest. But then there's so much artistic mimicry. I will say this often from white artists, where it's kind of like I would say Janis Joplin, grew up doing impression and basically in front of her family, an impression of like a black female blues singer, and then just kept singing like that. Like, it's an impression, it's like Mick Jagger had his American accent and singing like a bluesman and stuff. And I'm not bringing this up to be like co-opting and stuff, but those are the ones that they people take so seriously. Like I remember when I was a waiter in Chicago, there was this woman I waited tables with, and she was fine, but she would occasionally just say something that would just make me just like, no, what? Like she at one point was like, I love gay men. And I'm like, well, I mean, you can support them, but you can't what? Just
what does that mean?
Like I've known gay people that are assholes. It's not just lumping them all. It's like, no, you're thinking about a certain kind of this man. So this person also at one point said, have you ever listened to Janis when she's being Janis though? And I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. What does that mean?
That is a long way of getting around to, I think you have a lot of love for music, but you probably don't have the same worshipful reverence for it that some might. Would that be correct?
I feel like I always try to describe those things that I do as like a very it's definitely reverent, but in a critical sense, because sometimes I make these things, people are like, oh, you're really making fun of this artist, and I'm like, no, I'm doing this because I it feels like I've studied this person, I've listened to the work so much that I'm like, here's my take on their thing, but it sounds like I'm like being critical of them, and I think it's more like a loving criticism, because it's never me just going, this sucks. It's like just sort of going, here are the patterns that this thing has, and like highlighting them, but in a way that's making it clear that I love this person or this work so much because I've listened to so much of it that I can sort of highlight these patterns and do mimicry of it. But it's I definitely do think I'm not doing these things and sort of just being like, these are infallible, these are untouchable pieces of work that you can't. I'm just like, I really like them. If someone were to be like, I hate them, I'd be like, yeah, that's okay. It's not a personal thing to me. I don't know.
No, I mean, I really respect any artist on any level who admits they've had the moment that I know I've had. I don't know if you've had it, where you're like, there are moments where you're like, I can't believe I'm getting away with this. Like I'm paying rent. I own a car. Like, wait, this isn't, which is, stupid thinking anyway. But it's also like, if that doesn't occur, I feel like every art, no matter who it is like, it's like Cary Grant being like, everybody wants to be Cary Grant. Hell, I want to be Cary Grant. Like, who is that guy? It's this kind of thing of like, I'm really not that special.
Yeah, no, I think that all the time. And I'm just sort of like, oh God, at some point I got to get a real job. And then it's like, what do you mean? What are you doing?
You are doing your job. Absolutely.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Not to assume a position of authority in your life, but I'm sorry you are. Next, and I have to bring up how did that impromptu election declaration party happen? Because that happened in my neighborhood. I was in New Orleans at the time. My wife and I had lost our minds and driven across the country, and we're on our way back with our 6-week-old daughter. And it was great to be in this semi-blue bubble where you had people. It was obviously a celebration because it's New Orleans, but also it's COVID, so it wasn't. We weren't in any bars, but we definitely had a bottle of champagne for lunch outside. And like, but we were like looking at videos, and I was like, oh my God, that's Demi, and he's on top of a car at the gas station at the corner of Hillhurst and Los Feliz, and like, I live really pretty close.
So do I. Or I did. I moved since then, but that was such a wild. It was impromptu, but like, so what happened is I woke up that morning and just heard bagpipes and cheers from the street and was just like, what happened? And then like I went out to the balcony and I was like, oh my God, they did it. I was like, there's nothing else. I didn't have any confirmation. I was like, there's nothing else that it could have been. I was just like, I just knew Trump had lost. And I saw a guy in the corner playing a bagpipe and people like driving by and honking and clapping for the guy. And then I joined him by going downstairs. I just put on like a bathrobe and grabbed my melodica and went downstairs to play along with him. And then I texted my friend Addie, who lived at the corner, or
Yes.
lived essentially diagonally on the corner from me. And it was just like, we're celebrating, come out. And she's like, I'm on the way. And then it's very funny. Paul Shear drives up and we're both like, Paul. And he's like, you guys got to get down to Hillhurst and what's this? Hillhurst and Los Feliz. There's a bunch of people just crowded over there. And we were like, yeah, okay, let's go. And then I like went upstairs and threw on a shirt and met Addie down there. And she was like, I couldn't find a place to park. So I just drove into the gas station and we're just standing in the crowd. And at some point she's like, we got to get on top of this car. And then we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're cheering from on top of the car. And then someone randomly shows up with a speaker. It just felt like a weird, like a party you'd see in a Pepsi commercial of some sort, where it's just like, hey, now it's a block party. And then we just started playing music and it just became a party. And we were there for like 8 hours.
Oh my God.
That's
incredible.
It really was. It like people started ordering pizza and passing it out to everyone. People had kept bringing us bottles of champagne. And I was like, this is so indulgent, so nice. But I just was like, oh my God, I gotta get home at some point. And then the next 2 weeks, just like, oh God, did I get COVID? Did I give anyone COVID? And it's like everyone was very good about having masks and like just like being respectful, but it was still just like, I don't know, it was a lot of celebration. I don't know, but it was like, no, we were all fine and we were all like doing it well. It was just sort of just stressful. Anyway,
that was our big regret, was seeing that and being like, I kind of wanted to be back in the neighborhood, because like we live in a cul-de-sac and we all know each other and everybody's a parent. And like the Meg who lives across the street was saying, she was like, I just was on my porch having a cup of coffee and I just cheers started erupting from every house. And I was like, oh, that alone, I would have loved to just hear, I mean, we were in the hotel room when they called it, and I was just like, I was like, I don't know how to react, man. Like it almost feels like a juke, like someone's fooling me. Like this is just like, But it was once we got outside and we were like, oh, and there were people that were. It was interesting, either cheering and high fiving and drinking in the street and hugging, or just stone faced and walking. Like they had to get someplace, but you could just see the ones who. All right.
We kept thinking, oh, this is going to be a bummer when someone comes by and she's like not into it. And it felt like every single car was supportive. You could even just see people like he was like, people just being like, I got to get somewhere, but I'm really just happy to see people who are like, they'd honk along or like just wave. It was just universal happiness. I couldn't believe it. I was even waiting for like a cop or like the gas station people to be like, hey, stop. But like I went to go get water at one point and the guy just kept smiling and was like, here you go, man. And I was just like, okay, you guys are loving this. That's great. It was
special
very nice.
Dispensation. I mean, I feel like even if a cop showed up, he'd be like a village people cop. He'd start dancing.
He just started. Yeah, exactly. He does a backflip. We're like, whoa.
Exactly. So, let me ask. I always ask people on the show. First off, I should say, I don't know why I do this show. It's just fun. I don't generally get asked advice, except from like, up and coming comedians sometimes, how do you get in? How do you start to make a living? And it's like, you just do it until you drop. I don't know what to tell you. There's no, just like with any art, but I always ask, like, do you get asked advice? And I was interested to ask you that because you're so multifaceted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I get a lot of people reaching out to just be like, hey, is there any chance I could like pick your brain on how to get into writing and whatnot? And I always feel weird about that just because I feel like I'm still a person who needs help in that arena, but also I'm always just like, I don't know what advice to give you. I feel like I got lucky, but also had a lot of things like not provided for me, but sort of was like, I grew up with enough like privilege to be like, well, I'm not working right now, so I can work on these other things, or like just getting to basically have like the time, or like the mostly time is a privilege to just sort of like not have to focus on certain things, and therefore being able to fuck around in ways that people were like, oh, that's comedy. And then I just sort of like nurtured it in a way, and then I was like, I guess I should focus on writing. And I went to college and just sort of was forced to do it under deadline. But I always feel like I don't know what advice to give outside of that. So I'm just like, I don't know what to tell anyone. And I can't be like, yeah, I'll buy me a coffee and talk about it, because I'm truly just like, I feel like I'm failing upwards. But yeah.
Well, but I mean, I feel like that is a huge part of it. And Rob Williams, as he put it, you have to be prepared for luck.
Yeah.
It definitely takes a lot of work, a lot of sweat, but sometimes it hits for some people, it doesn't hit for other people.
A lot of networking.
Little moments where we're just like, oh, why didn't I get that, but kind of like, where's mine?
Yeah.
You know? I will say I never had another comic or something. I was just like, oh, I wish I had that person's life or career, because it's just like, I would probably screw it up because it's not mine. You know, I don't know. It's like,
yeah,
it's just your path is your path, really. So any advice in that function, it's almost not useless, but it's not like how to be a plumbing engineer, let's say,
right?
You know, where there are exact steps that hopefully will work. You know? So, but I know we did get some calls. I don't know them. I haven't listened. I never do.
Okay.
Renee, our producer, listens, so it's just you and me going out there blind. Only rules are we don't Google anything. So if someone has a technical question, sorry, you know, whatever. But
just the way I like to give advice.
Yes, correct. So are you ready for the first call?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hi, Matt. Hey, Demi. Okay, so here's my advice that I need. I am thinking of moving out of my apartment. My roommate just dropped in me that she is moving out at the end of the month, and she has no place and she's leaving. And I was just going to renew my lease and then sublet for the fall from studying abroad. But now I'm like, well, should I even renew my lease, or should I just find a place to live in January? So I'm really debating over this. So if you have any advice, please let me know. Thank you.
So she's wondering if she should renew her lease, but also is thinking about studying abroad.
And she just kind of threw that out as like, should I do that? Okay. I think, but like she basically said her roommate has said that they're moving out.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think off the top of my head, it comes down to, can you cover both rooms?
Yeah, I would just go.
Yeah.
I always feel like it's also just nice to, even if you're like just moving to a place that's like sort of the same, it's always nice to laterally just have a sudden change of scenery, or just like this is a place that I get to be in. And so I always defer to like, if you have the chance to move. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good to have a shakeup. And I think that's the joy of renting, is that you're not trapped.
Right.
You know, like I have a mortgage. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of, though we could sell the house, but it's like, you know, with a rental, it's just, if it's already coming up, and she said January, that's a lot of time to look too.
Yeah, that's half a year.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, look and see if it makes sense, you know, because you might not get the same thing for the rate you're paying if you can cover it, but
right.
Same time, it's a lot of time to look. So, and you just threw the studying abroad thing out, I think that's maybe kind of, I feel like it's this is a wild analogy, but there's that scene with the guy in The Fisher King. Are you familiar? The movie?
I haven't seen it, but I know about it.
There's a guy who is very dramatic. He's like a older gay man, and he keeps just trying to get run over by horses and carriages in the park, and they keep going around him, and he's just kind of doing this performative suicide attempt.
Yeah.
And then Robin Williams' character is like a knight, and so he's like, you know, like, why are you sad? Talk to me. And he's trying to save him, and the guy's like, well, everything changed and my life fell apart, and I'm not happy. Well, that and all my friends died. Like, he throws out the real reason at the very end, where it's like, you know, the AIDS crisis. He obviously lost all of his friends. Absolutely horrible. But I loved that actor's choice to just take that line and throw it away, you know? I feel like this person is like, I don't know, should I just study abroad? It's like, yeah, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's why you
Does
just
that make us the radio shock jocks in The Fisher King?
What's that?
Is it Robin Williams who is the radio shock jock in that movie?
Yeah, because yes, and then he got like, that guy was like, I love you, and shot everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're the Robin Williams of this scenario.
We are, once he's been so traumatized, he's no longer a shock jock, and he doesn't remember that part of his life at all.
Ah, okay.
Yes, he's a
homeless
homeless man
movie.
who thinks he's Don Quixote. He's a homeless man who thinks he's a knight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I also think that, like, I mean, if you think about, I also think it's not their question, but go study abroad.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would
Anyway.
love to. I can't.
Yeah, you
know?
can.
I mean, I guess someday I can.
Matt, you should also go study abroad.
I should
Take your wife, take
my
the baby.
11-month-old kid and just go. Go to
Yeah.
school. Yeah.
They're gonna love it. They get to eat paella and
Come on.
other things, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Various hams.
Yes.
So yeah, there you go, caller. We're shooting from the hip, but yeah, go study abroad and get the hell out of that apartment. So, boom. Okay, caller number 2.
Hi, this is Grace Gordon. I have a question. Oh my God, the door just slammed. 1 second. Hi, this is Grace Gordon. I have a question for Demi, who is coming on your show tomorrow. I was wondering, because Demi has gained a following for his letterbox reviews, but is definitely not a film critic. I was wondering how he handles writing reviews for films his friends make or are involved in, since he also works in the entertainment industry. I always struggle with writing reviews for books or films or shows or really anything because I have so many artist friends who make the things that I consume. I'm wondering what the hell the rules are and what is and is not okay to say and how you deal with the anxiety around that. Okay, thanks. Love you guys. Bye.
That's my friend Grace, who texted me and said that she asked a very sincere question, and I expected it to be, I don't know, I expected it to be a lot more of a gotcha, but
Okay.
I'm glad that it was that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Letterboxd at all?
It's some, but reiterate. I've only had it explained to me like once or twice.
So it's basically a social media platform that's like a journal where everyone can log the movies that they've been watching and just be like, here's what I thought of this movie, here's how many stars I give it, and so on and so on. And like I use it a lot. It's pretty much the only place I fully exist on the internet anymore.
Okay.
But it's also just like, I don't know, I've always just felt like it's the most fun place to be because I can just write anything about any movie or whatever, and it feels like it's not a huge deal. But then of course that does become so much more loaded when you work in this industry, and you have to think, like, just have to do a sort of mental calculus of like, well, I probably shouldn't trash this movie that this person worked on, or like, oh, I didn't like this, but I really don't work with these people, so I probably should just not say it. And I think that I personally, between that and just between weird strangers who get very overly familiar or just sort of like get mad at me for like not liking a movie or making a joke about it or whatever, I feel like I've just taken a very laissez-faire approach to it and gone like, I'm not giving you guys any star ratings on what I feel about these movies. And most of the time I'll just write like a 1-sentence joke. Which is sort of what I do when it's like, even with friends movies, unless it's like, I'll be like, I have something positive to say about it, and then just disclose that my friend worked on it. But it's also just like, I don't know. I don't think of it as like I'm writing very serious reviews for people. So I think it's fine for me to just be like, my friend wrote this and I really liked it. And that doesn't feel like me secretly going, I actually didn't like it, because it's not true. I often do. But it is a tricky thing of being like, yeah, how do you talk about something that your friend made in an honest way without being rude to the friend, but also without like just like sort of doting on it and being like, this is a perfect piece of media. And I mean, I think also most people would, I'd like to believe that most of my friends would appreciate an honest, like, not me saying it's shit or something, but just sort of like being like, I really liked this. It's a first time or what. Like, I think if I made a film and then people were like, I liked it, but I didn't love it, I would appreciate that so much more than I would just being like, it's perfect, my friend made it. Because I'm like, that's not helpful.
No, but it is an interesting question to be like, how do you honestly review a friend's work? Because you are friends with them for a good reason, because they make your life better and you connect with this person on a lot of levels. And so you understand them and you understand why they would do certain things and certain choices. Whereas I just look at someone's painting and I don't like it, I'm like, but if it was my friend, I might be like, I see where, whatever. And it's tough because, I'm sure, what Ernest Hemingway would say, like, be merciless, in your criticism and stuff. But like at the same time, it's like, but why be a dick, really?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I always felt like, I even though it was kind of created by people I knew, Funny or Die always annoyed me because I was like, I either click funny or I don't click, because who the fuck am I?
Oh yeah, no, the very concept of that, I'm like, it's like when people like vote, like downvote on a YouTube video. I'm like, what? Who are you? You're putting in effort to be like, I need you to know that I didn't like this. It's like, just don't scroll by. It's like when people shit talk something on Twitter. I'm just like, it's so easy to do nothing all the time. Just do nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You don't have to insert negativity, and in fact, you're not doing anything good for anyone, including yourself.
No.
So, but it's a tough. That's an interesting. I really like that question. It's a tough line to walk.
I read something recently about just the concept of brutal honesty and how it's not needed. And it's just like, where's like your clever honesty, your compassionate honesty? And I think it's that sort of sentiment of like, it's fine to just like say you didn't like a thing, but I think there's a way to do it that is tactful and not just sort of being like, this thing really fucking sucked. And even though it was my friend, it's like, because then it's like, what do? You just want like cool points from the public from a bunch of people that like, well, they're not going to be like, whoa, this guy's really, he tells it like it is. It's like, I don't, just say a thing that's nice. Like I honestly don't think I've ever run into a scenario where I had to be like critical of something publicly that a friend worked on. I think it's very easy to just sort of be like, also, I think it's very easy to just sort of be like, this thing was not for me, or even just saying like, I really appreciate the work that went into this, and like pointing out the things that you did like without having to sort of just be like, however, it's a piece of shit or whatever. It's so you don't like, I mean, I always just feel like you don't have to say anything at all. And just like people who like go out of their way to sort of like, just sort of give a negative take as if being negative is sort of the highest proof of like honesty or like sincerity in your thought, just feels sort of like, it's so easy to just like move on and just be like, I didn't like a thing, I'm just gonna keep going. But I think doing it for a thing that your friend made is as simple as just sort of, I don't know, pointing out things that you liked or pointing out elements that you really enjoyed without pointing out the things that you didn't, especially on a platform like that, where it's not like you have to fill out a list of the things that you felt about every aspect or something. You can just,
I mean, I think there's a reason when you were jokingly, especially like when I was when I started as a stand-up in Chicago, you could have the best set ever and you get off stage and one of your closest friends would say the worst thing, like not about your material, just about like, man, you ate it, or that, you didn't like any of that, did you? Right? Ooh. Because it's all, but we know, we both know it's a joke and we're laughing and it's fun. But the reason why it's funny is because it's so goddamn cruel. Jeff, who sadly died during the lockdown, who was the pianist at the Comedy Store, I would come in and he would beeline to me and would just say, well, oh, you're not going up, are you? No. And it would always make me laugh because it's just like, this never gets old. Don't ever stop saying this. This is so great. But the reason why it's funny is because it's mean, and when you're being mean, and there are people that are just like, no, but it's art. I have to be mean, but they would never say mean. But it's like, no, you don't. There's so many ways to make things not hurtful by saying, here's what I didn't like about it, or here's what I found confusing or whatever.
Totally.
And back to your point of it's not for me. I've said that about so many things in media.
Yeah. And I think that people think it's like it's just sort of being like, oh, they want to say that it sucks. But I'm like, no, I honestly there are so many things where I'm like, it's not for me. I don't know. People talk about like the DC, like Batman and Superman movies. And I'll be like, it's not for me. And people are like, oh, you really fucking hate those. I'm like, no, I'm just like, those are massively popular. And I can't say it's a piece of shit because clearly people love them in some way. I'm truly telling you, it is not for me because thematically they do things. I'm like, I don't feel that way. So it's easier for me to be like, it's not for me than it is to say like his ideas are wrong. And I don't agree. It's like, no, I don't like that because it's not made for me. Anyway.
Yeah. Neither you nor I would ever be like, I really want to direct a $200 million superhero movie.
Right.
You're like, oh, I can't imagine the pressure.
It's so much work. It's also it's just a lot. I'm like, anything on that scale, if it comes out at all, I'm just like, damn, you made a movie. That's awesome. And it feels condescending to say that, but I'm always just, I don't know. I think about doing anything. I'm like, God, I think about writing a script. I'm like, Jesus, if you can write a script and it makes sense, you are a magician.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. It also, I was going to say something just now and then I forgot it. Anyway. Yeah, it's hard to do a thing, and I support anyone who does.
Yes, absolutely, and I support, and it's kudos to anyone who is on a major platform and is a chief critic or something, because they probably have a lot of friends, and then something comes across their desk, and they're like, "Oh boy."
I think about that a lot because I want to make movies, but I also have friends that are like critics, and I'm just sort of like, would they be like, I can't talk about this because I know this guy. But then I'm like, I would genuinely love an honest review of anything I did, because it's like, I always worry, like, I don't want people just being like, it's great. I'm like, I can't trust that. I want someone to tell me it's shit, and I want them to tell me why. But then it's also like, well, I don't want people to be mean just to be like, well, now I'm being honest. So it's just like, just the balance of how do you get a real reaction without people being concerned about your feelings, but also being compassionate enough to not just say, it actually fucking sucked or whatever. Yeah. It's hard.
It is hard. But I mean, I think you nailed it. I think you answered the question. So thanks for calling in, Grace. You didn't have to say your full name, but it's all good. I will say some people are like, oh, I shouldn't say my name, but it's like, if you're just saying something like, oh, I'm drinking too much, or I'm well, maybe not that, but like, oh, I hate my apartment or something like that. It's like, that's fine, but
I guess it's up to them.
Dealer's choice. But we typically blur out people's name, like bleep them. But like in Grace's case, no, because
I feel like if they say their own name, it's like they probably just like, I don't care if you.
Yeah, more to the point, exactly. Okay, thanks a lot, Grace. Let's hear the third call.
Hi, Matt and Demi. This is Sophie calling from Portland, Oregon. I need advice on how to keep my energy up during a 12-hour shift. I'm in nursing school, and 12 hours is a long time for me to be like running around that whole time. And I'm just curious, how would you not be totally dead on your feet at the end of that day? So help me out. Ooh. Thanks so much.
Ooh. That is a hard question as someone who can be dead after like 2 hours of doing anything. I'm trying to think of the ways that I like the things that give me energy. And it's like, sometimes it is just being around certain people, but sometimes it's just having like a quick moment to get away from people and just like do something that feels like it makes me excited to, like, just having something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Like if you're someone who reads books a lot, just being like, if I just start a book now and then like as you're working, you're like, oh, I'm just excited to get back to that book. But then it might be a thing where like you're getting tired. It's like, I just want to sit down and read. And I think maybe that's not the best thing. So
no, but even if you're just like, I'm going to read 3 pages. I'm going to go in this broom closet with a flashlight and read 3 pages of this book, and then I'm going to dip out and no one knows. I mean, I think it really is decompression. It really is those moments where I found that I get a lot of tension in my back when I don't like stretch out enough, like my legs, especially, being tall. And when I was a waiter, it's like I would just go around the back of the building and do some leg stretches and then go back in and be like, oh, okay, like feel a little more blood flow.
Yeah.
Because the thing I found with being a server, being anything like that, a nurse, the thing that won't exhaust you as much as, and I was carrying plates and stuff, but the thing that exhausts you is the attention, where you're paying attention to 5 different tables at once.
Yeah. Or
if you're a bartender, a whole bar at once. Or if you're a nurse, a whole wing at once with other nurses. And it's like, so you have to find the ways to let the tension out of your brain a little bit. And I have that where I get like anxiety and I have trouble sleeping. And so one thing I do, I think I've talked about this in a show, is I'll think a positive thing and breathe that in, and think of a negative thing and breathe that out. And I'm not dexterous enough to do it every single breath, but it just thinking it makes it kind of like, it eases the tension a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you said like looking forward to something, like she's walking in the hallway and she's just like Italian sub sandwich, like whatever she's looking forward to later.
I thought you were saying that it was going to be like positive and negative qualities, but you're just like, it's literally just things that you like.
No. It is when I'm late at night.
Okay. I was like,
I'll think of relaxation and I'll breathe out stress. Things
okay.
Like
I was like, you're going to bed just being sandwiches, bad sandwiches.
Bad sandwiches. Yeah. Or breathe out the name of that nurse that drives you nuts, or whatever.
I also, I wonder if it's also like, I don't know, like finding a thing that compels you in a way that might not necessarily be like, some people are just very competitive, and it's like, maybe you are a person who can thrive if they are like making little mini competitions with people, or just being like, oh, I'm going to get this many of this thing in a day, and just having a very playful competition that's not like life threatening, but just sort of like a thing that makes you like more excited to keep going.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's so hard because it's such a long shift. It's such a tough time. And I find I get like a lot of people work in the medical profession. They listen to a lot of the things, when they're not around people, like they're doing something like restocking, stockroom or something like that. Let me listen to something, like the Jerky Boys or something, or something that's just mindless, or some classical music or whatever you like, but not something that's like, this is going to rile me up. Like I found it was, when I became a full-time dad when my daughter was born, because my wife was still working, and all my dates got shotgun. They're all, they all got moved or taken away. And so I was like, okay, this is my job now. And one mistake I made is I would just listen to NPR all day. And it's like, it is my favorite news source, but not only do they replay a lot of the same stories, but a lot of them are just like, I am so depressed right now.
Yeah, you're going to feel really bad. And then you're like, okay, time to take care of this baby I brought into this world. Oh.
Yeah. So, I mean, not to be like, oh, listen to stand-up comedy from a stand-up comic, but just like something fun.
Yeah, and there is something cathartic about that. I when I was doing my podcasts, there was a lot of times people would reach out and just be like, this is very helpful to me as someone who like doesn't want to think about the state of the world, or like just needs an escape. And it like, as much as sometimes you just like, I don't know if I am that person, or like I want to be that, it's like people need that, and they do appreciate things that are just sort of ephemeral and just sort of like focused on being entertaining. So yeah.
There is a podcast that Christian Duguay, Christian?
I don't think I do.
Okay, he's really funny, and he's also very talented musically, but he has this podcast called Valley Heat that's basically a fake podcast about a guy named Doug who lives in the equestrian district of Burbank, and he records conversations with his neighbors, and I'm a voice on it. Other people, let's see, Billy Wayne Davis, Beth Stelling, Chris Garcia, and he's just always running afoul of them. But he's a very normal guy. But he just keeps it. But he also will get focused on a type of music and why he doesn't like it or why he finds it annoying. But he's just talking like a normal guy. And me and my friend Eric, who's out here for the summer too, we were talking yesterday, and we were just fanboying over this part where his pool man is Billy Wayne Davis, who keeps saying the pool needs fixing, but he's just swimming in the guy's pool, and he keeps playing the band Boston, Yeah. And this guy's he's like, have you ever listened to this stuff? I mean, all their songs sound the same, and he's listening to Boston, the guitar harmonics and everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, I mean, how many guitars is that? And like, I remember laughing so hard. He's like, how many guitars do you need in a song? This is insane. How many? And he's taking bits of the song and let me just play this for you. Let me play this part. Just listen to this. And he's playing it, and the guy's like, rock and roll, man. And he's like, I mean, it's great. You're a rock and roll band. Who cares? Come on, a lot of rock and roll band. But it's so inane, and he makes fake ads for fake businesses in Burbank, like a used foosball
I
table
love that
store, and like this song about frisbee golf sounds like something out of like Rocky or Karate Kid or something. It's just so like hardcore and so inspiring. And I remember driving on the freeway and laughing so hard I'm like wiping tears. And it kind of made me realize like, oh, I've been so stressed out that over everything,
Yeah.
with being a new father and everything we've all been through and the state of the world right now. It's like I needed something just silly like this, like
Yeah.
So that's a recommendation, but also just something that you're just like, you know what I love? Like Kyle Kanan and I used to pull up. There's a video that someone made of this preacher who just, total scammer. The number's always on the screen, and silver hair, and please give to Jesus, but it all goes to him.
Yeah.
And Keegan-Michael Key actually said his mom like was really into him, and like she would send him money like every week, and he'd just be like, stop, But he will be like, Jesus Christ, he'll just do that. And someone did a supercut and put farts in every time he does that. Kyle and I have watched it probably 100 times because it's just that thing. It's not even a palate cleanser. It's just like, this is so stupid that it makes some people mad. They're like, you think this is comedy? I'm like, it is. Like, I'm laughing so hard at this. So just find your thing like that. That might not be yours, but find a thing.
Everyone has a different little like motivating joy that sort of like cleanses them and de-anxietizes them, whatever the word is.
That's well said. Yeah. So, okay. Hope that helps, and hang in there. 12 hours is a long time, but thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yes. Okay. So we got one more caller. You've been great. You ready for the last one?
Let's go.
Okay. Caller number 4.
Hey, Braunger. Hey, Demi. My name's Shane. I just recently moved to the Phoenix area. I'm also 27 years old, and the main question I have is, how exactly do I go about making new friends in a new city? Not only in a new city, but halfway across the country, or entirely across the country from where I am originally from. So how do I go about making friends? I enjoy stand-up comedy, and I know there's some stand-up comedy around here in the Valley. And there's also music and stuff. So post-pandemic, I got some tickets to a couple shows that are coming to the area in the next couple months. So I'm super excited for that. But I know I can meet people there at these events who have similar likes and interests as me. But how exactly, again, do I go about making some new friends? And do either of you have any specific memories of being in the Phoenix area, or any shout outs or recommendations to help me out as I start my new adventure here? So thanks so much. Thanks for listening. Big fan of both you guys, and thanks so much.
I think as an adult, making new friends always feels like the hardest thing to me, just like from an advice standpoint too, because it's just sort of like, I don't know, you just sort of work together, or you just have the same, you're in the same club of some sort. And I'm just like, I think that there are some people who are just so much more extroverted than me that can just make friends anywhere they go. Sure. And I think it is just a matter of like talking to people and like finding that common ground, but also just like having the sort of like boundary exploration, and just sort of like just basically talking to people in a way that you can suss out if they want to be friends, in a way that you can't as easily if you are someone who's like anxious or just like not good at reading boundaries. But I think that it also, it helps to like join clubs of some sort, or like go to things where you are gonna meet people who are a lot like you, have the same interests. I've made friends through like a karaoke night at a local bar, just because it's like, I see these people here all the time. Yeah. And so it's like, let's just talk. And then we'll be like, oh, I love that song. And just like see each other every time at the same bar. And it's just like a sort of thing that happens naturally by a matter of, just rhythm or routine in your life. And I think it's hard to make friends when you don't have that in some way. Because a lot of people just be like, well, are you trying to hit on me if you're just talking to me this one time? But also it's just like, I don't know, if you're just at a place and someone's like, just starts talking to you, and then you're just like, what do you want from me?
What do you want?
I'm always just like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want I remember a friend was in New York, 15, 20 years ago, and he was like, just kind of like between going to a bar from one bar to another, and he went in. It was like there was like free Scientology movie, like short film or whatever, and he's like, all right, and he went in, no one in there but him, and then a guy comes and sits 5 rows back, and then it's over, and after the thing, the guy walked over to him was like, I just walked in off the street. It makes a lot of sense. It's like, fuck off. Like, you're not. you think that's what you will look like. Because it does feel weird when someone just starts talking to you. And I was gonna say, it's harder than dating. I
think so.
Yeah. There's something. It's tough because the only person I've ever broke up with as a friend. He recently died, recently, and it was this thing where I learned certain things about him and things he was doing that I was like, look, man, I didn't even want to tell him what they were. Nothing criminal, but just, well, some of it was kind of, I won't get into it, but it's just
like enough of a line crossing that you're like, I don't want this person in my life anymore.
Because we were so tight for so long, I just sent him an email and was like, look, man. And he was like, why don't you call me, talk to me? What is this? And it was just like, no, he had issues, but a lot of people were making, tributes to him and stuff. And like, I was like, I can't. And I thought about it long and hard, but I will say that was harder than any breakup. And I've never had a good breakup, like they're never easy. And
friend breakups are, you just
walk away. You walk away from friendships.
Yeah.
Usually. You know what I mean? They just dissipate. You don't go, hey, we're not friends.
And like breakups can end and you still be like, but we're on good terms. And it's like a friendship breakup is just saying personally, like, we got to be lower than this. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's always so much harder because a relationship can end for so many different reasons of just being like, we're not compatible. A friendship, if it's not compatible, and it's on a fundamental level saying like, it is your personality, it does not go well with me. And it's just so much more crushing to admit that.
Exactly. So like that said, it's harder to make a real friend. I think the caller, you should first focus on making friendly acquaintances, and then friendships will develop. You're not going to meet someone and go, hey, we're friends now. So it's what Demi says, but it's finding the right club, the right group. Go online, look around.
It's also, I think it's also helpful to just sort of like start from the connections that you do have in the city. So if it's like you're moving, did they say why they were moving?
No, they just said they moved there.
If it's for like work or because of a relationship or something, it's like meet the people who are in that immediate circle of like, oh, this is my partner's friends, or oh, these are people I work with, and like you can expand from there, or it's like hang out with those people and meet the people they know and just like sort of that's always a thing that I really enjoy, just like becoming friends with my friends' friends until it's just like, well, they're just my friend, and then you can meet their friends, and just going past that circle until you just meet strange people that you're like, I don't have any connection to them. But
and I think most people take kindly to someone who's like, I'm new in town, I don't know anyone, help me, but oh, I just moved here from so and so. Oh, I've been there, cool, and that's an icebreaker right there. To someone you work with, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
So it's always interesting to meet someone new from somewhere else.
And also it's like, depending on the interests you have, there might be like places online where you can just sort of go like, I live in this area and would love to hang out with someone who likes this thing, or like, I'm going to this show, does anyone want to hang out at the show or whatever? But that's also it's like, if you are a certain kind of person who can do that, because I feel like I am just so socially anxious that I'm just like, I don't want to meet a new person, period. But especially in that way, but a lot of people do. So it's a lot of just personality things of like, what is the way that you make friends and what are you comfortable with?
Yeah, and give yourself some time and some space, because it's very, very, very hard, and it's kind of got to come naturally. That's how real friendships are born, because a huge part of it is trust. And right now, for good or bad, you're a stranger.
Yeah.
So just, you're on your own. Take it easy. Don't be too hard on yourself when you're, coming home alone and friendless initially. Right. So just give yourself some time. I mean, I think these things, they have to come about organically. They have to.
Totally.
So, all right. Hope that helps. Demi, you've been great. What do you have to plug?
Watch the Amber Ruffin show, and that's really it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. No, I mean, it's an awesome show. So right on.
Thank you.
Good work.
Thank you for having me.
What's that?
Thank you for having me. I always feel so weird giving people advice, but I don't. This was nice.
That's the thing. It always feels weird.
Yeah.
There's no one on here who's like, you know what? I got it. Actually, I should say no. Like I've had some young musicians on who kind of were just unabashed about it, which I was like, awesome. This is new.
Yeah.
I always had like, comedians or, or just like, hey, I don't know why I'm talking, but
that's the kind of confidence that allows them to be musicians though. I'm like, I couldn't. No. Yeah.
So true. But I do want to say I'm sorry for thinking. I looked at an old DM of yours that was like, I can't do it today.
Oh,
because I'm in Cape Cod with the family. Yeah. I literally left them on the beach, and I got this text that was like, hey, it's starting to rain, so don't just head back. You might have to get the car and pick us up. Like, all right. But God. I walked back with the little dragging baby trolley with the baby in it through like dirt roads and stuff to get back to this house we rented.
Oh, wow.
And so it was nice and calming to talk to you because Rose just kept standing up and like looking off the sand, like fucking stop. I must have looked crazy to people because I kept laying her down and she would like fuss and get back up.
She's like, I'm exploring this new place we're in. Let me look around.
If you fall out of this thing onto a gravel road, like your mother is going to murder me.
Babies are so stressful to me because they're like the most fragile things on earth, but also the most curious. So they're always just sort of like, what is this thing? You're like, that's danger. I don't know how to tell you what this is, but just stop it. I
mean, I'm just lucky I have my wife and I have my in-laws because they are great at taking care of kids, but they also are just like, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm better at that now, but for a while, if you're just Johnny on the spot where you're just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
But it's
every baby is constantly in a Mr. Magoo scenario.
Completely. But they can see. It makes no sense. Yeah.
They just don't know what it is. Yeah.
You just don't know. But anyway, dude, thank you so much for coming on here. And
thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of are you on a break now?
I am.
Okay. All right. Enjoy the rest of your break. I think last time I saw you in person, you had an ice cream. So go get an ice cream.
That sounds right.
And I owe you an ice cream.
Okay.
The date. So we'll go get ice cream.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, dude.
Catch you later.
Good times. Check out Demi. If you haven't watched any of his videos, Google his name and watch his stuff because it's incredible. And if you'd like some advice from non-professionals, taking it easy, but trying to help, call 323-763-0228. Again, that's 323-763-0228. And thanks. This Might Help with Matt Braunger was created and hosted by me, Matt Braunger. Produced by Outer Circle Media. Executive producers Matt Kleinschmidt and Robert Kelly for the Laugh Button Podcasts.